minds, welcome to the final part of lesson 1, understanding the law. This is part 3, which is the final part of understanding the law, after which we are going to delve into the real law proper. We're sorry for publishing this one late due to technical issues, so we couldn't publish it earlier enough. So, let's go. Lesson 1, understanding the law, part 1. Now, law spread far beyond the core subject into virtually every area of life. 3 categories are presented for convenience, though the subjects intertwine and overlap. Now, A, law and society. Now, we're going to look at the various laws that fall under law and society. Now, we have labor law. Labor law simply refers to the study of a tripartite industrial relationship between worker, employer, and trade union. This involves collective bargaining regulation and the right to strike. Individual employment law refers to workplace rights such as job security, health and safety, or a minimum wage. Now we have human rights law. Human rights law, civil rights and human rights law are important fields to guarantee everyone's basic freedoms and entitlement. These are laid down in codes such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the European Convention on Human Rights, and the US Bill of Rights. Now, civil procedure. Civil procedure, the body of law that sets out the rules and standards that courts follow when adjudicating civil lawsuits. These rules govern how a lawsuit or a case may be commenced, what kind of service of process, if any, is required, the types of pleadings or statements of case, motions or applications, and others allowed in civil cases, the timing and manner of depositions and discovery or disclosure, the conduct of trials, the process for judgment, the process for post-trial procedures, various available remedies, and how the courts and clerks must function. Now, criminal procedure. Criminal procedure is simply the adjudication process of criminal law. While criminal procedure differs dramatically by jurisdiction, the process generally begins with a formal criminal charge, with a person on trial either being freed on bail or incarcerated, and results in a conviction or acquittal of the defendant. Now, criminal procedure can be either in the form of inquisitorial or adversarial criminal procedure. I want you to look at these two words on Google. Google inquisitorial or adversarial to learn more about them. Now, the law of evidence. The law of evidence, also known as the rules of evidence, encompasses the rules and legal principles that govern the proof of facts in a legal proceeding. These rules determine what evidence must or must not be considered by the trier of fact in reaching its decision. The trier of fact is a judge in bench trials, or a jury in any cases involving a jury. The law of evidence is also concerned with the quantum, that is amount, quality, and the type of proof needed to prevail in litigation. Important rules that govern admissibility concern hearsay, authentication, relevance, privilege, witnesses, opinions, expert testimony, identification, and the rules of physical evidence. There are various standards of evidence, standards showing how strong the evidence must be to meet the legal burden of proof in a given situation, ranging from reasonable suspicion to preponderance of the evidence, clear and convincing evidence, or beyond a reasonable doubt. Now let's look at immigration law. Immigration law refers to the national statutes, regulations, and legal precedents governing immigration into and deportation from a country. Immigration laws vary around the world as well as according to the social and political climate of the times. Acceptance of immigrants sways from the widely inclusive to the deeply nationalist and isolationist. Countries frequently maintain laws which regulate both the right of entry and exit as well as internal rights such as the duration of stay, freedom of movement, and the right to participate in commerce or government. National laws regarding the immigration of citizens of that country are regulated by international law. Nationality law. Let's look at nationality law. Nationality law is also known as citizenship law. It is a law in each country and in each jurisdiction within each country which defines the rights and obligations of citizenship within the jurisdiction and the manner in which citizenship is acquired as well as how citizenship may be lost. Now, a person who is not a citizen of a particular country is generally regarded as a foreigner, also referred to as an alien. A person who has no recognized nationality or citizenship is regarded as a stateless person. Now, nationality law can be broadly categorized into three principles: jus soli, or right of nationality by birth on the soil; jus sanguinis, or the right of nationality by blood; jus matrimoniae, or the right of nationality by marriage. Now, nationality laws may be based on any of these principles, but commonly is a combination of all three principles. Generally speaking, New World countries have a strong jus soli heritage, along with common law countries, until very recently, with the exception of the United States and Canada. Now, Social Security law. Let's look at Social Security law. Social Security law is any government system that provides monetary assistance to people with inadequate or no income. It encompasses the right of people to have social insurance, job seekers allowance, or housing benefit. Now, family law. Family law, also called matrimonial law or the law of domestic relations, is an area of the law that deals with family matters and domestic relations. Subjects that commonly fall under a nation's body of family law include marriage, civil unions and domestic partnerships, entry into legally recognized spousal and domestic relationships. Now, determination of legally recognized family relationships and ancillary matters, including divorce, annulment, property settlement, alimony, child custody and visitation, child support, and alimony award. Adoption, which is proceedings to adopt a child, and in some cases an adult. Of course, an adult can also be adopted. Surrogacy, the law and process of giving birth as a surrogate mother. Child protective proceedings, court proceedings that may result from state intervention in cases of child abuse and child neglect. Juvenile law, matters relating to minors, including status offenses, delinquency, emancipation, and juvenile adjudication. Paternity, proceedings to establish and disestablish paternity and the administration of paternity testing. Now let's look at transactional law. Transactional law refers to the practice of private law relating to money, business, and commerce. Areas of focus include providing legal aid to entrepreneurs through contract drafting, real estate acquisition, and intellectual property affairs. Transactional law firms differ from traditional litigation firms in that transactional firms generally prefer to resolve dispute out of court. Now B, another law we have now corporate law, also known as business law or enterprise law, or sometimes company law, is a body of law governing the rights, relations, and conduct of persons, companies, organizations, and businesses. The term refers to the legal practice of law relating to corporations or to the theory of corporations. Corporate law often describes the law relating to matters which derive directly from the life cycle of a corporation. It thus encompasses the formation, funding, governance, and death of a corporation. Commercial law or mercantile law. Let's look at commercial law or mercantile law, also known as trade law, is a body of law that applies to the rights, relations, and the conduct of persons and businesses engaged in commerce, merchandising, trade, and sales. It is often considered to be a branch of civil law and deals with issues of both private and public law. Commercial law includes within its compass such titles as principal and agent, carriage by land and sea, merchant shipping, guarantee, marine, fire, life, and accident insurance, base of exchange, negotiable instrument, contract, and partnership. Many of these categories fall within financial law, an aspect of commercial law pertaining specifically to financing and the financial market. It can also be understood to regulate corporate contracts, hiring practices, and the manufacture and sales of consumer goods. Now, Admiralty law or maritime law. Let's look at Admiralty law or maritime law. It's a body of law that governs nautical issues and and private maritime disputes. Admiralty law consists of both domestic law on maritime activities and private international law governing the relationships between private parties operating or using ocean-going ships. While each legal jurisdiction usually has its own legislation governing maritime matters, the international nature of the topic and the need for uniformity has since 1900 led to considerable international maritime law development, including numerous multilateral treaties. Admiralty law may be distinguished from the law of the sea, which is a body of public international law dealing with navigational rights, mineral rights, jurisdiction over coastal waters, and the maritime relationships between nations. Now, let's go to intellectual property. Let's look at intellectual property law, IP law. IP law is a category of property that includes intangible creations of the human intellect. Intellectual property law aims at safeguarding creators and other producers of intellectual goods and services. These are legal rights, copyright, trademark, patent, and related rights, which result from intellectual activity in the industrial, literary, and artistic fields. Now, space law. Space law is the body of law governing space-related activities, encompassing both international and domestic agreement, rules, and principles. Now, parameters of space law include space exploration, liability for damage, weapons use, rescue efforts, environmental preservation, information sharing, new technologies, and ethics. Other fields of law, such as administrative law, intellectual property law, arms control law, insurance law, environmental law, criminal law, and commercial law, are also integrated within space law. Space law is a relatively new field dealing with aspects of international law regarding human activities in the Earth orbit and outer space. Now, C, law and regulation. Now, under law and regulation, we have tax law or revenue law. Tax law is an area of legal study which deals with the constitutional, common law, statutory tax treaty, and regulatory rules that constitute the law applicable to taxation. It involves regulations that concern value-added tax, corporate tax, and income tax, etc. Now, banking law and financial regulation set minimum standards on the amount of capital that banks must hold and rules about best practice for investment. This is to ensure against the risks of economic crisis. Bank regulation is a form of government regulation which subjects banks to certain requirements, restrictions, and guidelines designed to create market transparency between banking institutions and the individuals and corporations with whom they conduct business, among other things. As regulations focusing on key actors in the financial market, it forms one of the three components of financial law, the other two being case law and self-regulatory market practices. Regulations deal with the provisions of public services and utilities. Now, competition law, known in the US as antitrust law, is an evolving field that traces as far back as Roman decrees against price fixing and the English restraint of trade doctrine. Competition law is a law that promotes or seeks to maintain market competition by regulating anti-competitive conduct by companies. Competition law is implemented through public and private enforcement. It is used to control businesses who attempt to use their economic influence to distort market prices at the expense of consumer welfare. Now, of consumer law. Consumer law could include anything from regulations on unfair contractual terms and clauses to directives on airline baggage insurance. Consumer protection is the practice of safeguarding buyers of goods and services and the public against unfair practices in the marketplace. Consumer protection measures are often established by law. Such laws are intended to prevent businesses from engaging in fraud or specified unfair practices in order to gain an advantage over competitors or to mislead customers. Now we have environmental law. Environmental law is a collective term encompassing aspects of the law that provide protection to the environment. A related but distinct set of regulatory regimes, now strongly influenced by environmental legal principles, focus on the management of specific natural resources such as forests, minerals, and fisheries. Environmental law is increasingly important, especially in the light of the Kyoto Protocol and the potential danger of climate change. Environmental protection also serves to penalize polluters within domestic legal systems. Now, air law. Air law deals with all regulations and technical standards applicable to the safe operation of aircraft and is an essential part both of pilot training and pilot operation. It is framed by national civil aviation acts or laws, themselves mostly aligned with the recommendation or mandatory standard of the International Civil Aviation or ICAO. And that is the end of lesson 1. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment and share so that others can also watch and learn.